For the sake of keeping this simple, we're not looking at the more like obscure engine configurations that motorcycles have had in history, because as soon as we include things like the L-twin or the horizontally opposed whatever, then we've got to include everything. You know what I mean? Like the 5-cylinder wheel engine configuration. Or if we do something even like a boxer twin, we're pretty much just looking at BMWs at that point. Yeah, so we're not going to look at rotary engines. No, I'm not doing that. We're basically just going to look at the basic main staple engine configurations that have dominated the market, so we actually have some options to pick from. Also, I think some people who watch a video like this don't understand that this is just for fun. This is just for discussion. This is literally just my opinion. I know some of you think that that means I should make the title something like my opinion on the best sounding motorcycles, but I'm sorry, that's not how the YouTube game is played. So yeah, this is all just my opinion, but we do also have to recognize my opinion is the correct one. Okay, let's start with the classic single-cylinder 4-stroke engine. We will be looking at 2-strokes as its own entire category later, but for now, we're looking at 4-stroke engines and starting with the classic single, or the thumper as some call it. This one is so tough. There's so many great sounding singles, especially old bikes. That's a trend that you're gonna see in this video. Often older bikes sound better simply because there's little to no emissions regulations for these old bikes when they came out. So it's just sort of like unhampered. Unhampered, is that a word? Well, whatever. Unhampered, undampered, dampened engine explodey sounds. For me, I love the sound of the Vincent Comet, the Royal Enfield Bullet of the 60s. A lot of these old singles sound very similar, also the Velocette Thruxton, but for me, the one I keep coming back to that I find myself just watching videos of people like starting the bike just because it's so weirdly satisfying to listen to, although it seems difficult to start. Anyways, I have to go with the BSA Gold Star, the legendary British big single, world record holding, really innovative motorcycle for its time. All of that doesn't matter for this video. All that matters is how it sounds. So check out and listen to the sound of a few BSA Gold Stars.
Oh, so nearly. You can smell the petrol.
All right, the next logical engine configuration, we have the parallel twin. And I want to say just really quick, I know I haven't heard every single parallel twin motorcycle or single ever, but I'm pretty sure I almost have. Like, I sit and watch cold start videos all the time for new bikes, for old bikes. I just love listening to motorcycles. It's just like weirdly satisfying. It's like ASMR for me. But by all means, let me know if you think there's some that I overlooked and I'll check them out. Anyways, for the parallel twin, I've got to go with the old British bikes again and say the Norton Commando. As much as I love my 60s Triumph and the Triumph Bonneville and the BSA twins, which are basically the same engine from that period, I gotta go with the Norton Commando. It's just got that little bit of extra grunt to it. It's super throaty and mean sounding. Like, it sounds like such a fast bike, and it certainly was a fast bike for its time. But there was quite a few other motorcycles at this time that were way faster. Anyways, give it a listen.
warm up a bit. Yeah, she's a grand old lady.
All right, next up we have the V-twin configuration. Obviously loads of great sounding American bikes here, old and new Harleys and Indians. I personally love the sound of the old Crocker V-twin, but for me, sorry gents, I'm gonna actually go across the pond again for my favorite sounding V-twin, and one that's a little bit unique. I think that's why I like it. That is the Vincent Black Shadow from the late 40s and early 50s. The Vincent Black Shadow is such a legendary motorcycle, repping speeds right out of the box of over 100 miles an hour. In 1949. Well over 100 miles an hour, actually. And then the production spec'd up Black Lightning that we talked about a few videos back. This is just a legendary company, and this is a legendary bike platform, but people don't often really comprehend that this is a V-twin. This isn't a parallel twin. At a time when all the British bikes were basically becoming parallel twins, and you had the influence of Edward Turner's amazing speed twin of the late 30s, everybody was trying to basically do what Triumph was doing, and Vincent just did their own thing. But yeah, it's an amazing bike, legendary bike, and listen to the sound of it. All right, I'm struggling a bit for the Inline Triple because there's things I like that are different about different triples that are currently available. Like there's some things I like and some things I don't like about specific engines. I should also note this is more of a modern configuration. It's true that triples started really becoming a thing in the 70s with Triumph and BSA, and then bikes like the Kawasaki Mach 3, though that was a two-stroke. But it really became a thing in the last 20 years. Like, the last 20 years have been sort of the era of triples. People are realizing that they're such great platforms that you get a lot of the low-end grunt and torque of a parallel twin, along with that high-end revvy fun power that you get from an Inline Four. Okay, I'm wasting time. I think overall I actually have to come to the sound of the current speed triple more than the bike that I would put at number 2, which is MV Agusta's 3-cylinder platform. MV's 3-cylinder at idle is what does it for me. They don't quite sound right. Like, they sound like tractors at idle. And sadly, that's actually the quality I love about the original MV sport bike platform when they were revived, which was the F4. The F4 also sounds like a tractor at idle, but it sounds way better in my opinion. This, I don't know, I don't quite love it at idle. It's a great sounding engine though, all around. I love this platform, but I think the Speed Triple is better. It's such a refined engine platform, and it sounds like it, you know? It has that great mixture of crazy high revving notes, but then it's got this sort of refined bassy after sound, whatever. I don't know. Just give it a listen, see what you think. Okay, I just mentioned it. This one's tough, as there are quite a few awesome sounding inline fours. Honestly, the modern R1s sound incredible to me. Lots of great sounding sport bikes over the past 30 years were inline fours, but I think I have to give it to the MV Gusta F4 750 of the late 90s and early 2000s. At the time, inline fours were and still are a bit boring. At that time, everything was an inline four. The Japanese manufacturers were refining this configuration to such levels that the inline four was kind of losing its rawness as a platform. For whatever reason, when MV was relaunched with the F4, they decided to go with an inline four configuration in spite of Ducati being sort of the different sport bike platform with the V-twin, L-twin, whatever. For some reason, MV Gusta went with an inline four, which I think was kind of surprising, but they did it in such a way that it sounds so raw and crazy. A lot of people say it sounds like a Ferrari, which doesn't totally make sense when you think about what it is as an engine. Regardless, it's an amazing sounding bike. It does sound a bit like a Ferrari it just sounds like an exotic vehicle, And I find myself coming back to these videos, watching it and listening to it because it just sounds so good. So let me show you some of them. Okay, this one is tough for me, but we have to do it. Two strokes. Now, for me personally, two strokes generally don't sound that good. I'm not a huge fan of two strokes. I know it's a thing. I know people love them, and that's totally fine. And there are some differences between them. Capacity makes them sound deeper and sort of louder. If they're very untethered, you can really hear the explosion of a two-stroke in the engine. I'm personally not a huge two-stroke guy, so I decided to ask my community, and there were some really good suggestions, and a lot of people were saying the Kawasaki Mach 3 from the 70s, which is interesting because that was the one sort of two-stroke that was in my mind for this. So yeah, the more I listen to it, it really has an interesting tone. I was kind of already thinking of that bike. Or there are some crazy big two-stroke dirt bikes that sound incredible, like this Mako Widowmaker or whatever Kaplan Cycles calls it. But anyways, I'm just going to give you guys the Mach 3 to listen to. Okay, for the Inline Six, and this is the last one we're going to go over, there's a few bikes vying for this position. I will humbly admit, I don't know of tons of Inline Six motorcycles. I don't think there are that many. If there's any awesome roaring six-cylinder bikes you guys know of besides the two that I'm mentioning, let me know down below. But for me, it's between the Honda CBX 1050 and the Honda RC 166. I think I've got to give it just barely to the CBX, arguably the greatest sounding production motorcycle of all time. There's tons of videos about this motorcycle and how it sounds. It's an iconic bike. It was too much power for its own good. People talk about it sounding like a Formula One car, which it kind of does. So let me see what you think. right, another video bound to polarize people. Let out your grief in the comments below. Maybe you'll change my mind. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Ride safe.